Hello, lovely people. Hope you're well and welcome to MMA Monday live show. Before we get started, please make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. Some very, very interesting topics to speak about. Obviously, everyone who is an MMA fan, or even if you're not an MMA fan, because of the notoriety of the person, no pun intended, everyone will know what happened with the Conor McGregor situation. Also going to be recapping UFC Macau, which was a phenomenal card at a great time in the UK as well. So thank you for that, UFC. Prochazka versus Hill has been made official for UFC 311. And Jon Jones says he will be fighting in 2025. So a lot to discuss currently. So we unfortunately have to start with a subject that is far from good. A subject that I never want to discuss on this channel because I never just want to hear about stuff like this. I never want to hear about stuff like this happening. And that is to do with Conor McGregor's sexual assault case where he's been accused of rape. And me even saying those words, one might get this video demonetized and cause a whole stir in another way. It's so difficult to speak about this video because again, we outside of those who were in the court or outside of Conor McGregor and the woman who is accusing Conor McGregor, we don't know the absolute truth, or we perceive to not know the absolute truth. But he was found guilty in a civil case. And again, shout out to Luke Thomas, watched his show with an Irish journalist who went into great detail about the ins and outs of the case. And the first question I had was when he got found guilty was, well, why isn't he doing jail time? And obviously, because it's a civil case, it's not a criminal case. The only thing that could have happened is that he would pay a certain amount as a fine. And obviously, the fine was around $250,000, I believe. This is not good at all. And look, there's so many different ways you can look at this. Is she telling the truth? That's one thing. Obviously, there's conflicting rumors about what happened on the night, etc. But the evidence was put forth to the jury about the cuts, bruises, and damage on her body. That doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. And if a jury's been privy to seeing all those things, then that does not shine a good light on Conor McGregor. One thing I also don't like is people just accusing her of being a liar without there any proof. And people are really going after her because Conor McGregor is such a fan favorite and so beloved by a lot of people. Now, I'll be honest with you, even before this came out, my opinion on Conor McGregor was 50-50. When he was on the rise and when he was coming up in the UFC, I was a massive Conor McGregor fan. Even up until his fight, I'd say with Dustin Poirier, the last fight of Dustin Poirier, I'd still say I was a massive Conor McGregor fan. Some of the things he said to Khabib, I wasn't on board with him, but I don't think at the time it came from a racial place. I think it came from a place of ignorance and intoxication. The Dustin Poirier stuff I didn't like. I didn't like him speaking about Dustin Poirier's wife and just how he was going about that whole situation. But this is a whole nother level. And if you're the UFC, how do you approach this? Because do you even want him fighting again in the UFC? Have you looked at the possibility of what that looks like from a perspective of fanfare? You have a women's division, a thriving women's division, not as thriving as it used to be, but a thriving women's division. How are they going to feel about this? How are the men going to feel about Conor McGregor after this coming out? Is he going to want to fight again? How will this be met? Obviously, he's a massive pay-per-view star. Will people want to buy his pay-per-view still? Will they want to support him? I don't know. And Scraps, I hear you, bro. Something ain't right in my opinion as well. But again, there's no smoke without a fire. And again, it came out of a barrage of tweets after it happened, and then he's since then deleted those tweets. Why the hell are you tweeting about something so sensitive? Why the hell are you doing this? Someone take his phone away. It seems as though he's got no one in his circle who he listens to. Because I'm not going to accuse anyone in his circle of being yes men or yes women. But it seems as though there's no one in his circle who will actually sit down and listen to and take advice from. And if I'm going to be honest, another woman I feel sorry for, apart from the accuser and the victim, is his wife. How much is he going to put D Devlin through, man? Like, and I speak as a man who is fortunate to have a wife. And my missus has been with me from I was at university, doing all nighters at university. She used to come. She didn't go to my university. She used to come to my university when I was doing all nighters and stay and keep me company. She's been with me through some of my thinnest moments, some of my hardest moments, my biggest tribulations and trials. She's been there through that. I could not imagine purposely putting her through any stress. I could not imagine purposely putting her through anything unnecessary, because she's been there for me from the beginning to now, giving me 3 beautiful children. Like, D's giving him children. Like, there's videos out there showing that D was with this guy when he was on welfare. Said to him, don't worry, just believe in yourself, you dream, you accomplish those dreams, I'll be here by your side. And she's still with him. Again, I'll be honest with you, D, like, I don't know why you're still with him. Like, you deserve better. But she's still with him, and he's still doing this and constantly embarrassing her in public. Not too long ago, he's caught pulling some woman's hair when he's dancing, and she's right next to him. Like, where's your respect, man? Where's your self-awareness, Conor? It's just a absolute joke of a situation. I feel sorry for the victim. He needs to get some help. He needs to get some help. At this point, fighting should be the last thing on Conor McGregor's mind. He needs to get some help. He's clearly a drug addict, and he drinks. Every time I see him, he's drinking. We're looking at a man who 10 years ago was at the peak of his powers and had the fighting world in the palm of his hand. Could do no wrong. Anytime he spoke on the microphone was fire. Anytime he stepped in the octagon was fire. Pay-per-view star, pay-per-view draw, pay-per-view record breaker, gate record breaker, everything, palm of his hands. 10 years later, look at the downfall. It's horrible to see. He needs to get help. Dana said that Conor McGregor will fight late 2025. I don't know if Conor McGregor should be fighting again. I don't know if he should be fighting again. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm sure more will come out of that. I think they're due back in court this week or within the next 2 weeks to discuss more of the situation. So time will tell as to what happens next with that whole situation. But yeah, not a good look, man. Not a good look at all. On to other things, and that is the UFC Macau card. And wow. So we had the pleasure of having this card at 11 a.m. start in the UK. When I tell you guys, it was beautiful. Now, granted, I couldn't watch the card live because I just saw my little ones with football and their extracurricular activities. Plus, it was the weekend on a Saturday where I wasn't covering the football as well. So I had to spend a bit of time with the kids and the family. But when I watched this card back, wow. This card was sensational. From the prelims right up. I mean, there were shocks on the card. It was just, what a card, man. What a card. Like, you look at Fing Shi, who got a sensational head kick knockout. And it turns out she's a doctor as well. But yeah, she's a doctor by day and a knockout artist by night. Incredible. You look at the Zhang fight, which started off the main card. Brilliant KO finish. stepping elbow, bam, flatlined, and then finished off with punches. Then the Ozdemir-Olberg fight was a war. Ozdemir showing he's still got stuff to offer at 205. Carlos Olberg could be the potential hottest prospect at 205. What happens next with him? Then you look at the women's flyweight fight. Wang Kong, who was seen as the biggest and best prospect. If I'm not mistaken, she has a win over Valentina Shevchenko in Muay Thai, I believe, or kickboxing. Everyone expects her to go out and beat Gabriela Fernandez. What happens? She goes and gets submitted. She gets put to sleep in an incredible fight. Then you look at Muslim Salikov. What a spinning back kick finish. And has called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at welterweight. Yes, sign me up. Kung Fu versus karate. Yes, sign me up. Yang Xiaonan versus Tabitha. Baby Shark Richie. A great fight as well. Look, Yang Xiaonan was just on point with her striking, takedown defense. But Tabitha Richie's got heart for days. She gave just as good as she got. Yang Xiaonan was just on another level with her striking, her accuracy and her timing. But Tabitha has nothing to be despondent about. She was brilliant. And then the main event, Yan versus Figueiredo. Crazy, crazy, crazy. What a fight. Both dropped to each other. Great strikes. Petr Yan fought this off the back of an ACL surgery. Brilliant fight. From start to finish, just an extraordinary fight. Arguably fight of the year. I know people automatically say Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title at UFC 300. If I'm going to be honest, guys, without any spoilers, because we will be doing end-of-year awards on this channel, I don't think that is the fight of the year. I think it's the performance of the year from Max, but I don't think it's the fight of the year because it was pretty one-sided. And I know people say, yeah, but the scorecards read 50-45. This was a competitive fight. This was a very competitive fight. Some of those rounds were close. Yes, I still gave them to Yan, but some of those rounds were close. And Figueiredo, he's a monster. To think he's come up a weight to fight one of the best in the world at bantamweight, he's an absolute monster. And I'm so intrigued to see where both of these guys go next. Because that was a hell of a fight, man. Hell of a fight. UFC Macau, great stuff. Then there was an announcement. Yuri Prochazka taking on Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill at UFC 311. A massive, massive fight in the light heavyweight division. But it also presents a few questions as well. If Prochazka wins, he's in no man's land because he's not going to get another title shot against Pereira. He's lost twice. So he'd be hoping that Pereira and Ankalaev fight and Ankalaev wins and he wins because then he could get a title shot. Otherwise, he's not getting a title shot against Pereira. So does he become the quote-unquote Max Holloway of that division where he just keeps on beating contenders? Then you look at Jamal Hill, who's not fought since UFC 300, where he was devastatingly KO'd by Alex Pereira, and has been speaking at length about wanting that rematch. If he goes out and beats Prochazka and does it in devastating fashion, and Pereira is able to beat Magomed Ankalaev when they fight, if they fight, does he get the rematch finally after talking a lot of trash on Pereira and saying that it wasn't him and that given another chance, he puts on a better show? This is a massive fight in that division. Or does the winner of this fight Carlos Olberg to determine the number one contender? Or does Krylov get the next shot? Very interesting. But look, fantastic matchmaking. Really good fight. I don't even know who I favor at this stage. Obviously, we'll do a preview close to UFC 311, but that's a really real 50-50 fight. Both men have knockout power. Both men are unorthodox in their striking. Really interesting. Really interesting. Then on to one of the most important figures in MMA at the moment. And he recently had an interview with the Schmo. I'm just going to play a snippet of it right now and then discuss it.
So right now, the UFC and I, we're in negotiations. We're in talks to see what happens next. I'm back in the gym. I'm training. I feel really great, and we'll just be ready for whatever opportunity comes our way.
But you're a betting guy. Do you think you'll get back inside the cage in 2025? If we had to bet on that.
Yes, I will be competing in 2025, more than likely.
the UFC heavyweight champion, disputed heavyweight champion, Jon Jones, speaking to Shamo about his possibility of returning to action in 2025. And look, sounds positive for what he's saying. He's back in training already. Obviously took no damage against Stipe. He's in negotiations with the UFC apparently. But who's he in negotiations with? Who's he in negotiations for? Is it Alex Pereira? Is it Tom Aspinall? Is it Jamal Hill? Is it Derek Lewis? A lot of questions. A lot of questions. Will Jon Jones relinquish the heavyweight title? Because if he keeps the heavyweight title, Aspinall has to be next. Anything other than Aspinall being next is a travesty. But then, if Ankalaev and Pereira fight and Ankalaev loses and Pereira wins and Pereira gets on the microphone and calls out Jon Jones, does the narrative change? Because I'll be honest, if Pereira goes out there and starches Ankalaev and makes it look good, he's the man of the hour. He's the main man again. And then if he calls out Jon Jones, does that change the narrative? Does that tip the needle? Does that tip the scales in Pereira's favor? Very interesting to see. Very interesting to see. In other news as well, there's a lot been going on over the weekend, actually. In other news as well, Chris Cyborg and Clarissa Shields have been going back and forth. Clarissa Shields offering Cyborg a fight in the boxing ring, and Chris Cyborg responding saying, "I'm 10 years older now and 30 pounds lighter, but I'll beat the brakes off the goofiest woman of all time in a real fight. My last fight was 145 pounds. Clarissa's last fight was at 175 pounds. I will fight her inside the PFL cage at an open weight. Just sign the contract." Now, Clarissa has actually fought MMA. She has fought MMA, so it wouldn't be a foreign situation for her. However, it would be foreign going up against someone like Cyborg. However, Cyborg said she would have a 30 pounds disadvantage against Clarissa, and she's open to fighting her in an open weight fight. If I'm the PFL, given that there's no imminent news about Francis and there's been a few disgruntled fighters on the roster, I'm doing everything I can to try and make this fight. This fight will draw in casual fans. This fight will draw in MMA fans. They need to start putting on big blockbuster fights. The Francis card back in October was an excellent card. We covered that on this channel. But they need to do more of it. And if you can get Cyborg versus Clarissa, that would be an extraordinary situation. However, Bellator champions Patchy Mix, Patricio Pitbull, and Corey Anderson have also aired their grievances with PFL, given the lack of fights and lack of fighting opportunities. So this is why I'm saying the PFL really has to do something, and really has to do something quick, because you can't have three of your champions being disgruntled, especially someone like Patchy Mix, who I think the UFC would go after if need be, and if he became available. So they have to be careful there. In other news, Yoel Romero out fighting for Dirty Boxing Championship. That's Mike Perry's organization. Beat the brakes off of a boxer. Again, it's what Yoel does. He steps in there and knocks people out. And Renato Moicano is in the news because apparently there's two news rumors going around. One is that he's fighting Beneil Dariush, or there's negotiations to fight Beneil Dariush at UFC 311. And the other is that there's negotiations apparently for him to fight Paddy Pimblett at UFC London in March. I'd love to know from your perspective, guys, which one would you like to see him fight more? Would you prefer him to fight Paddy in London in March or Beneil Dariush in January? A couple of you guys speaking about the whole FSG situation. Yeah, it's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke with the Mo Salah situation. If you didn't catch the morning meetup show, me and Matt do tune into that. Go and check out on the Coffee's YouTube channel. And then we're going to be live later on the Monday Night Live show to speak about that in more detail as well. So yes, people, that is MMA Monday. Before I head off, one match that I'd like to see made off the back of this card, and that is Yan versus O'Malley 2. I don't think O'Malley will or should get an immediate title rematch. And the first fight between these two men ended controversially, so I'd like to see that fight happen. So let me know in the comments, guys, who would you like to see paired up after UFC Macau, people. Smash the like button if you haven't already. I'll be back tomorrow evening with Jay and Luke for combat catch-up. So make sure you tune in then. Until I see you again, everyone, thank you for all watching and listening. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the Sanderson Show. Take care, everyone.